you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Tuesday, September 10. Hope everyone's doing well and watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. The Sick Podcast is once again brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. It's also brought to you in part by Bittt at Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 or 12. In grocery stores all around the province of Quebec, it's ultra light and ultra refreshing, and also brought to you in part by Playground. If you're looking for the ultimate entertainment experience, Playground has it all. Gaming, poker, fine dining, live music, DJs, and all with unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Just minutes from downtown Montreal, across the Mercier Bridge Playground, your top destination for fun. Montreal Canadiens fans were rattled earlier this morning. They were rattled earlier today. They were rattled this evening. They are rattled right now as we speak. Why? Because for the most part, during this rebuild of the last 3 years, for the most part, people are saying that the Montreal Canadiens have stockpiled a bunch of assets and prospects, which will make them a Stanley Cup contender in the next 4 or 5 years. A lot of people seem to think that way. Well, Corey Pronman of The Athletic is a very accomplished writer, and earlier today he wrote a piece on basically the prospect pools of all teams in the National Hockey League. And the Montreal Canadiens are not number one on that list. I bring in to talk about it from Global TV Montreal, Brian Wilde. Brian, how are you?
Oh, I am good, and I am fired up, and I'm so happy you asked me to come for this one because, wow, what a list. What a list. Is he kidding?
Yeah.
Go on. Tell your story.
You know
Tell your story, sir.
Brian, I know that in Montreal, prospects is the thing of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not many. And I include you in that list of those who are very, very interested in prospects and do a lot of homework on prospects. So I think it's actually very appropriate that you're on tonight with the topic being what it is. All right, okay. So without telling you where the Montreal Canadiens are on the list right away, I'll just get to number one. Why don't we bring it up? And Yellow and Sammy, master control. And there we go. The Chicago Blackhawks. And if you're watching, you're already seeing that the Ottawa Senators are at number 2. But Chicago's rebuild, he says, is still a few years away from truly turning the corner. But the club is putting together the pieces it needs. The Blackhawks have the potential superstar every team is searching for, Connor Bedard. They also have a deep stable of young blue line players like Vlasic, Korchinski, Levshunov, and others. They could use a bit more skill in the organization, but they have a premium center and defense talents. The Blackhawks could acquire scoring wingers through the open market, as they will likely be a top free agent choice by the time they start winning again. Brian, it's hard to argue that they have a superstar in Bedard and they have a potential number 1 in Levshunov. Just how much more talent they have, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't have a terrible problem with Chicago where Chicago is, because when you look at what Pronman was doing, he prefaced it with, these are the teams that he can see have a chance to win the Stanley Cup in the next decade. So it's important because he's talking about the top level, top skill. And that top level, top skill is what gets you to the promised land. The Connor McDavids get you to the promised land. So he's naturally going to put a lot of import on Connor Bedard, who he thinks is obviously going to be in the same ilk as McDavid that can carry a team. And, you know, I'm okay with Korchinski and Levshunov too on defense. That's a first pair D. So I don't really take a lot of exception with with what he said there. There's also Nazar, who is really going to be a great young American forward for Chicago, and Oliver Moore, who I really liked. He's a super speedy center. And so when you look at their pool, I like Chicago's pool. I wouldn't put them at 1, but I like it. So, I'm not going to take exception with number 1. But can we get to number 2 soon?
Well, yeah, let's get to number 2 right now, because over the last couple of years, due to the proximity between Montreal and Ottawa, and obviously the rivalry, they faced each other twice in the playoffs, probably in the last decade or so, with each organization winning once. There's been this thing about who's doing it more right, the Canadiens or the Senators. And it's funny because over the past couple of years, I think a lot of people have switched over from they loved what Ottawa was doing after they drafted Sanderson and Stützle and Tkachuk to now loving what the Canadiens are doing. But in Promen's article here, the Ottawa Senators are at number 2. Let's read what he had to write here. I'll put on my glasses because I'm getting old. The rebuild is slow and frustrating in Ottawa, but if you take a step back and look at the pieces the Senators have, it's quite a promising group of young players. They have elite talent up front in Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk. They have center depth, and they have premium talent on the blue line. With some steady goaltending, this is an organization that could break up the typical playoff teams in its division. Well, you know what? I'm not going to doubt. Like, I have to tell you. Okay, let me hear from you first, and then I'll give you my take on the Ottawa Senators.
All right, my take is Corey on crack. Like, what is he talking about? This is a terrible take. It's one of the worst takes I've ever heard. Here's why. Who's in their prospect pool? The guy they just drafted, Carter Yakupchuk. That's it. Okay, so they're going to add one guy, and they year after year after year with the talent that they have now, which is already matured, they're not getting any better. Maybe Sanderson ups it just a little bit. Like, I like Jake Sanderson a lot. He's been a favorite of mine, but maybe he ups it just a smidge.
Well,
okay,
he will up it quite a bit. He will up it quite a bit because he's only played 156 games. Shane Pinto.
All right, let's give
Pinto.
Yes, I like him too. But for the most part, he's mentioned guys that's it. What they have, they've already shown. Okay, Tkachuk's not showing more than he's already shown. Stützle's not showing more than he's already shown. I'll give Sanderson a little bit. I'll give Pinto a little bit for sure. But they've only got one guy coming. And so far, what have they shown us? They suck year after year.
And he's adding all.
And they're only adding one guy. They're not adding 7 guys.
Well, they've added
Look at the Canadiens' prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And everybody needs a goalie. And last year they struggled in goalie. And New Jersey struggled in goalie. Like, New Jersey should be 2, if you're going to use that philosophy. Because New Jersey's already put a 100-point season together and isn't going to be adding much to what they already have. But Ottawa's adding, right now, one guy.
Yeah, but and the goalie they added too. But the goalie they added too, he's not young. So I don't.
Right. So he's talking about 5-10 years out.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused. I mean, Linus Ullmark's 31 years old. He talks about adding a goalie, but you're right. That group, it's so I think Stützle will be better, right? And I think Sanderson will be better.
I don't think so.
I don't think. Well, I don't think
Stützle's going to show us much more.
I think. Well, Stützle had a 90-point season, but I think maybe he can get to 100. Maybe not. Maybe you're right. I don't think there's much of a jump. Thomas Chabot won't get better. Brady Tkachuk is a premier power forward. I get it, but I don't think he's got much more of a ceiling. I think what you see is what you get.
And that's my point.
I'm a little bit surprised that he's got to be number 2. Yeah.
That's my point, is what you have seen is what you get. What they have shown us already has been a bunch of underachieving players who were supposed to, and I predicted they'd find top 10, top 15, break through. They haven't done it. And now they've got only one top flight prospect to add to that mix that's going to make this monumental change that makes you the second favorite for the Stanley Cup in 5 years. Come on, man. Did he owe somebody a favor? That's crazy.
Okay, let's go to number 3. Crazy. I like where you're going with this. Number 3, the Anaheim Ducks. I think this is very fair. Building up a highly desirable group of young talent, which includes Trevor Zegras, who everyone knows on the trading blog. Zegras aside, the Ducks have a lot of young, high-end forward talent led by Leo Carlsson, a strong group of young defensemen. It's a very young team, still likely a few more years of talent accumulation and growth away from emerging out of the league's basement. Okay, I'd like to add to that, of course, Mason McTavish, who was their third pick overall in 2021. There you have a very, very good prospect. Olin Zellweger on defense. Nathan Gaucher on defense. Pavel Mintyukov, of course, a couple of years ago, who was their first-round pick in 2022. Beckett Seneca, who was just drafted third overall. Anaheim has a ton of talent, Brian. They have a ton of talent.
And the only name you didn't put out there was Cutter Gauthier, who I think they won that trade.
Yes.
Right, and they won that trade big time. And I like Anaheim a lot. Their prospect pool to me is excellent, and it has a lot of top end guys. And they got a first pair defense of the future set up. They are going to be strong down the middle with Carlson as well. I mean, you look at the draft picks in there. You got a Seneca that's 3. You've got a Carlson that's 3. Like Zellweger was late first, I believe. So maybe he's just a little bit lower level. But I mean, that prospect pool's got everything. That's got top end talent. It's got a lot of middle end. It's got some guys that are already in McTavish shown that they can play well in big games. So I have no problem there. I have no like a lot of these. You can just go, okay, that could be 1, that could be 3, that could be 4, that could be 2, and you can throw the balls up in the air, and you can feel it's pretty fair, right?
Yeah.
So I throw those balls up in the air. I can feel pretty fair with that.
And it's funny. I get stopped often, as I'm sure you do, Brian, and people ask me if I think the Montreal Canadiens are going to win the Stanley Cup under Gordon and Hughes, and I say, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there. I believe they will, but at the end of the day, only one team wins the Stanley Cup per year. Obviously, it's not going to be a very difficult thing to do. So, they ask me like who do you see the Canadiens as, their competition? And I say, you know what? If I take a look at prospect pool, the 2 teams that I see out of the East that I think can go very far for years are the Canadiens and the Devils. I didn't even bring up the Senators, and I say in the West, I say Anaheim. Actually, I say Anaheim even before I say Chicago and San Jose. So I'm high on Anaheim, and I've been high on Martin Madden Jr. for several years. I think he's absolutely one of the best in the league at what he does, if not the best.
Yeah, and statistically, if you look at it and you break down drafts, he has statistically been one of the best for a long time. Absolutely.
No, you're right about that. Okay. San
Jose, I'm not as sure.
San Jose, you're not as sure? Okay, let's get to them because I believe
not
they're
as
number
sure.
4, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not as sure because, I mean, again, he's going by the high-end guys, right? So Celebrini's really high-end. Obviously, he went number 1. Is he Connor Bedard? No. Is he in his realm? Probably just a little bit lower. And Will Smith, I mean, Will Smith's got a lot to prove, He really does.
Yeah.
He's developed into a fairly one-dimensional player, and he's got to just show a little bit more gumption when he plays than he has. And he might end up being on the wing, which takes his value down a big notch. So I'm not as sure there, but more than that, I mean, this is a team, San Jose, Tony, that like beyond the Celebrini, and if Will Smith works out, I mean, wow, they got like 15 guys to acquire. Like they're 15 guys shy of a lineup. They're a terrible hockey team.
And he said that too, right? He said that too, right? Yeah. A lot of it's based on cap space. See, here's where I think, with all due respect to Corey, who does very, very fine work, of course, doesn't mean we have to agree. But if you're going to do a piece and you're going to talk about prospect pool, but then you're going to talk about, well, this team doesn't have that many, but they do have cap space. I mean, well, that takes away from the exercise, I guess, because look, I think we can all agree that with Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith, they're probably going to have a real good 1-2 punch for years to come. I don't have any problem in that. But other than that, who does anyone talk about in this organization other than those 2 guys? Who does anyone talk about?
And maybe Dickinson.
Correct. Sam Dickinson. That's it.
But after that,
second pick of the last draft, but that's it.
Yeah. I don't see how you can put them as high as 4 again. So I'm okay with 1 and 3 too. Wow, that's an outlier of extraordinary proportions. And 4, I call that one a bit of an outlier too. They got the top end, but they only got two top end. And Greer's got to get like 15 better players. That's a tall order to put them in the Stanley Cup realm-ish.
Yeah, you're right about that. And much to the, I hate to say this for our buddy Simon Snake Boisvert, who's the president of the Quinton Musty fan club, but he's not going to be in that category of those 3 players that we just talked about. So now let's move on. The Canadiens are not first in prospect pool. They are not second. They are not third. They are not fourth. They got to be fifth.
They got to be, right?
Well, they're not fifth because fifth are the New Jersey Devils, the closest to contention amongst the teams listed. Projected playoff team entering the season on 112 points 2 seasons ago. Legit star talents in the Hughes brothers, Jack at center and Luke on defense. They're ranked 5th and not first, more reflective of the fact they are probably done accumulating talent. The young core they assembled is excellent, but not elite. Hence why they missed the playoffs last year. If a few players take positive steps, that would change my analysis. Their top players are not elite.
Yeah, the big problem I have here is it seems to be a little bit of inconsistency in the way he went about it. So if you're going to put Ottawa at 2, you're kind of saying that you're basing it on who's in the lineup already, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Ottawa is topped out at 80 points. New Jersey had 112 2 years ago. Yeah. And it's the same roster. So why did they suck last year? I mean, it's pretty obvious to everybody. They had 870 goaltending. They couldn't get a game of 900 to save their lives last year. No matter who they put in, the guy let in 5 goals and was doing 850 on a bad night and 860 on a good night, and with the odd 500 sprinkled in. But when they had good goaltending, they were a 112-point team, and that's the roster that they have. So how can you put them at 5 when they had 112 on a present roster? And then put Ottawa, who had 80 points on a present roster. So there's just no understanding for me how that happened, because New Jersey has already shown itself to be excellent at 112. And they have Casey coming and Salayev coming. So that blue line, which is already good, can get even better. Yeah. Young Hughes on the blue line is going to get nothing but better. The other guy was picked 1 overall that has been one of the great centers when he's healthy in the game, who played with Cole Caulfield, setting on all those records. So I think the Devils, if you're going to go by the strategy that he seemed to be using, they could be number 1.
I still don't understand why they gave up on Alexander Holtz this early. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
That is surprising. That is surprising.
I think I think he's got 30 goals.
He was the kid that had a bad COVID, eh?
Yeah, I think he's got 30 goals in him at the National Hockey League level. And if he doesn't hit it when the Devils, then they're probably right. But I wouldn't have given up on him. But look, there's a lot of talent there. Simo Nemec on defense. Sileyev on defense. Let's not forget, some had Sileyev as the number 2 pick probably about 6 months ago. And in the end, he didn't end up being the number 2 pick. And as a matter of fact, he tripped on the stairs when they called him up at the Sphere. But other than that,
but there you have a 112-point team that is adding Casey, who I think is going to be, a pretty good 3-4. Yeah. And Salavyev who could be a 1-2. And Nemec was picked 2nd overall, and he's going to get better. Yeah. He's going to get better. He's really young and has a lot of potential. So if I were to say, okay, I'm going to do this by the strategy of 5 years from now, who wins a cup? I think I would put New Jersey at 1.
And you know what? And look, I think Luke
just get a goalie.
I think Luke Hughes has a lot of potential. I think Luke Hughes is. I think he's going to be a star in the league. I really believe that. And let's not forget, it was about a year and a half ago that Wayne Gretzky said that, in his opinion, the closest player to Connor McDavid in the National Hockey League is Jack Hughes. That's pretty big praise from the greatest to ever play the game. Yeah. Now, so we already, once again, Chicago is 1st. Yeah. Ottawa is 2nd. Anaheim is 3rd. Yeah. San Jose is 4th. New Jersey is 5th. In terms of prospect pool in the National Hockey League, Corey Proman's article in the Athletic, the Montreal Canadiens have to be 6. Let's bring it up. And no, they're not.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
The Utah Hockey Club. They've been building since they selected Clayton Keller in the top 10 in 2017. The result of the last 8 years has been some ups and downs, but an organization trending in the right direction, excellent young prospects, a good young roster. It tries to turn the corner into winning, including by acquiring Mikhail Sergachev. You know, I'm going to go nuts. Do Utah have better prospects than the Canadiens?
Well,
Better young players than the Canadiens?
Aginla was taken right after Demidov.
Good pick, though.
So,
good pick. Yeah.
Cooley was taken after Slavkovsky. So, like, you know, because here I think Utah is the first time that we can actually say, okay, let's do a head-to-head. And we haven't done that for the other guys. I think Utah is like the best head-to-head. Because head-to-head, you're going Slavkovsky Cooley. And now would you rather have the 5'10" guy or the 6'3" guy who's starting to just like walk through people? I'll take the 6'3" guy who's walking through people.
Yeah.
And who was a part of a first line last year that had 53 goals in the second half of the season. I'll take him. Okay. Now, like, so then you got to keep going. And now you do Aginla and Demidov. And again, I'll take Demidov. Right?
Yeah.
So then after that, you've got Dylan Gunther, who I really, really like. But now you're going, okay, Gunther, Suzuki, you know, guys that are already on the team.
Yeah.
And I would put Suzuki in the same category. And then the last one is Simic. So now you're going, okay, Simichev, Reinbacher, Simichev, Hudson. And in all of these instances, I'm putting the Canadiens guy ahead of the Utah guy, because they've been in the same place in the standings now.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at the prospects to come, and I can't put the Canadiens behind Utah.
The one who's got big potential is Daniel Booth. Booth,
but that's a mystery guy, right?
Yeah, he is a mystery guy because they say that one day he looks like one of the best players in the prospect pool, and the next day he looks like a guy that probably should be in the second round.
Doesn't care.
A left winger who shoots right. He's 6'6", 216 pounds. And if he puts it all together, he could be absolutely unbelievable. But the hardest part will be for him putting it all together. So Utah is at 6. Who's at 7?
Got to be the Habs now, Tony. Surely it's the Habs now.
I would hope so. And no, they're not.
Oh, no, it's not.
Buffalo Sabres. Okay. A sexy pick to take a big step forward for several years now, says Pronman. The Sabres have drafted high for a long time and have built up an envious group of young players. They have 2 number 1 blue liners. This is true. In Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power, and a deep, talented group of forwards. They could become a contender at some point. If they can't progress into a consistent playoff team, their young team will just look like the previous iterations of the Sabres rebuilds. He's right that Dahlin and Owen Power are 2 number 1s. Brian, I'll agree with that.
And it's big. You know, like if you're going to become a cup contender, you have to be a clear first pair. You got to have a first pair, you know? Like if you look through history, if you don't have a first pair guy, you're just not going to get there, you know? You need a Victor Hedman. You know, it's just part of the mix.
They got good picks. They got Constantinius, who they picked at number 14 overall. At one point, our very own Craig Budden told us that he had him at number 5, the centerman. They have Zach Benson, who was picked 13th overall the year before that. You know, one of our collaborators, Phil Boucher, told us that he had him working with Team Canada, and he thought that Benson could be was the real deal and could be the steal of the draft if he would drop because of his size. And he did drop because of his size. They have Matthew Savoy. They have Noah Osland. They have Yuri Kulich, by the way, was a 28th pick overall. That's the year the Canadiens drafted Massar at 26. I think the Canadiens are regretting that one already. And of course, you know, they got some good players. They got Jack Quinn, who had a big injury a couple of years ago, but you know, Jack Quinn is a big time goal scorer. Let's not forget Dylan Cousins. They got talent, Brian. They got some good players.
Right. But here, the only thing I will say here, and that's probably why they've fallen down to where they are. They got the first pair D, but what's the high upside scoring there? They got a lot of really, you know, good prospects. But what's the high upside scoring there? What the Canadiens are hoping that Demidov is?
I don't know if Quinn could probably be a 40 goal scorer. But
Oh, yeah.
do they have a point per game player? I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
that's why they are where they are. Like they got like up front there's some, but like to me, Buffalo is Ottawa in a way, right? Because here's like a prospect pool that everybody loved, everybody thought was going to happen, and yet they haven't learned how to win hockey games yet, right? Because the two guys in the back end, they're fantastic. But they're not winning. And one guy, a long time ago, Darlene, like what year is he in now? 5?
Yeah, Darlene's
4. He's D+4. I don't have it in front of me, but
he was
D+4, D+5
in 18. He was drafted in 18.
D+6. When's it going to happen, man?
Yeah.
When are you going to start winning your games like Edmund can? Edmund gets on the ice and he wins the game by himself, right?
Yeah.
So if you're that number one, I'll give Power some time. It's unfair to say that sentence about Power.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a 1-2. It's like, you were drafted there. Everybody had those expectations. But, at a certain point, like hockey games have to start being 1-2.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I hear
so
you.
I look at Ottawa and Buffalo as similar. They're, that's what you see is what you get with Ottawa. They only got one guy coming. But at least Buffalo, what you see is what you get. But at least they got 3 or 4 guys coming that are still improving. So, again, but the philosophy that Corey said, I'll put Buffalo at 2 and Ottawa at 7.
Look, I love centerman Tage Thompson, who obviously had a breakout season a couple of years ago. But at the end of October, this guy's going to turn 27 years old. Like, we're talking about prospect pool here. You're no longer, I don't know what the ceiling is going to be when you're already 27. All right, at pick number 8. And once again,
surely
the
it's the
Montreal
Canadiens.
Canadiens are still not in the top 7 at pick number 8.
Oh, no.
The Seattle Kraken. Okay, we don't have all of the article there, but this is what we do know about the Seattle Kraken. They drafted Berkeley Catton at number 8.
Yeah.
Last year, their first round pick was Edward Salet. They had Shane Wright the year before that at 4th overall. The year before that, they had Matty Berniers. They've assembled some good young talent for sure.
Sure, but where's the high upside there at all?
Well, if Berkeley Catton could produce the amount of points in the National Hockey League that he did, of course, in the Western Hockey League with Spokane there, but other than that, I don't see a lot of depth of talent. He went number 8 because of his size, obviously.
Exactly. So
he went number 8.
Well, they go 8 for a reason, right? So
the Montreal Canadiens,
don't get me wrong, though. I really like Berkeley Catton, but again,
I like him too.
I don't know, man. Ahead of Montreal.
Yeah, I like him too. So
and they got Rakoff too, and he turned his junior career around big time last year. So he made Machar look good for a while too.
So the prospect pool once again: Chicago at 1, Ottawa at 2, Anaheim at 3. As I'm trying to memorize this, San Jose at 4,
good.
New Jersey at 5, Utah at 6. Now I'm starting to get confused.
Utah at 6, yes, and then Buffalo 7, and Utah 6, Buffalo 7, and then shockingly,
Seattle 8. Okay,
8.
So here we are at 9.
Surely it's now, right?
And it is.
Yay.
Montreal, some very good young forwards in the organization, says Pronman. Number 1 pick, Juraj Slafkovsky, had a good second NHL season. Good second one. Wow, I think it was very good. Recent draftee Ivan Demidov is quite talented, and seasoned young forwards Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield will be longtime NHL scorers. The Canadiens do need to find a true premium blue liner or 2, and ideally will get production from a healthy Kirby Dach, or else they will need to find some center help. Okay, let's talk about what he says they don't have. Do you disagree with what they don't have? He says they'll need to find the number 1 blue liner. So, and I'm going to say this. I love Caden Gooley. I think he could be a first pairing defenseman, but is he a number 1? Is he a Hedman? Is he a Horse? Is he a Pietrangelo in the style of defenseman that he is? I will say no. I will say that Gooley is not a number 1 blue liner going forward. And I will say I understand his concern that Dach needs to stay healthy. And if he does, he needs to produce, which he never really has because he really hasn't been healthy. I understand his question mark and his concerns. And I do not disagree with the whole Dach statement or Gooley. But here's something for you. And here's where probably I'm going to catch you by surprise. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And I had a chance to say this. I said this earlier this morning on BPM Sports Radio during my show, weekdays, Monday to Friday, 9:55 a.m. to 11:55 a.m., 91.9 FM on the FM dial, of course, out of Montreal, and subscribe to their BlueTube channel at the BPM Sports. You see, Brian, when you have a really cool boss who understands that the podcast can help the radio show and the radio show can help the podcast, and in the end, everyone wins, you get to cross promote like this. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really great idea. I think it's pretty smart. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty smart idea from
So
my
what
boss.
did you say? I'm anticipating. What did you say?
I said that I know there's some concerns about his size, but I believe that Lane Hutson's going to be a number one defenseman in the National Hockey League. I really believe that. I really believe that. And I said to Denny, I said, Denny, this is all live and it's on camera and we're on YouTube, and probably 3, 4, 5 years from now, I'm probably going to look like an idiot, but I'm willing to take that chance. Like, Brian, I could be wrong, but what I usually do is I trust my eyes and I watch Lane Hutson play, and he plays the way I love players that play. Players with a smile on their face when they go around you, players with a smile on their face when they pick up the puck, players that want the puck, players that protect the puck, players that have the puck all the time, players that want to do things with the puck, players that are able to pull off things with the puck, players that have that magic, that creativity, that imagination. Lane Hutson has it. And I'm telling you, and I said this, I had this talk with Eric Belanger, and I'll get to you in 1 second here, but Eric Belanger told me on Friday that Lane Hutson reminds him a lot of Quinn Hughes. And I know that's big praise because Quinn Hughes had over 90 points last season, and he won the Norris Trophy as the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. And myself and Eric agreed that Quinn Hughes' skating is 2 notches and maybe even 3 better than Lane Hutson. And that's significant. But other than that, Brian, do you really see the difference in the 2 players? I think the comparison is great.
Well, here's the thing that I will make when you talk about Quinn Hughes, because like everybody is concerned with Lane Hutson's defense, right? Well, Lane Hutson had the most ice time for the United States in the U20s when they won the gold at 25 minutes. They didn't rely on anybody else. He was number 1. And people forget this, but you know why Quinn Hughes fell to 9 in the draft? He was terrible defensively.
I thought he was 7. Was he 9?
Whatever. 7, 8, 9. I don't worry, but he fell, right? Somebody knows it. My apologies if I got the number wrong.
No, don't worry about it.
I know it was lower. Late in the top 10.
It's no big deal. And by the way, I could be wrong. Of course, it's the Kotkaniemi draft where Kotkaniemi went 3rd. And I just looked it up. Quinn Hughes was 7. Okay, so Rasmus Dahlin 1 to Buffalo, Svechnikov 2 to Carolina, Kotkaniemi 3 to Montreal, Tkachuk 4 to Ottawa, Barrett Hayton 5 to Arizona, Zadina 6 to Detroit, and 7 Hughes to Vancouver. Why did he fall? Lack of size?
No. It was his defense. He was not very good defensively, and there were a lot of question marks from scouts whether he would learn how to play the game defensively well. And in his rookie season, people have lost track that he was terrible defensively. He was lost. And he learned how to play it. And then with all of the abilities he had offensively, he transitioned into, what he is today. So there was so much charity for him, and there's no charity for Lane Hutson. None, for whatever reason. Like, there's a disconnect right now between the Habs prospects and what people like you and I think that they could become. For example, Vegas, as we mentioned last week, has the Canadiens at 76.5 points as the over-under for next season. So that's a disconnect, right? And you look at them 9th here, that to me is, again, a disconnect. It's suggesting like Doc is not the 3rd pick overall and wasn't outstanding when he was healthy in the season that he played the first one for Montreal. There's a disconnect that Lane Hutson won't offer anything, even though he was the best defenseman at the U20s and the go-to guy for America's head coach on their way to excellence at the World Juniors. There's a disconnect that Demidov won't be in the same realm as some of the players that offensively were obviously thought of as much more by Pronman than him, or they wouldn't be ninth. There's a disconnect in Hage is probably not even a part of it. There's a disconnect in that Beck isn't a part of it. There's a disconnect in that Fowler is not the probably second ranked goaltender right now in the next 5 years, behind only Trey Augustine, I think, or maybe Askarov if he arrives eventually, as they think he will now. But there's a disconnect on all those guys, to me, for the Canadiens to be ninth.
I think there is a disconnect. And look, I understood the exercise. I understood the article. I think there's some teams that got a pass. I think there's some teams that were way overrated. I understood your logic on some of it too. I see the Montreal Canadiens. And by the way, I mean, Corey is much more of an expert when it comes on prospects than I am. So his opinion probably has a lot more homework done behind it than I do, because he covers the draft and he covers the prospects. And I don't really. I tend to kind of like do my homework a couple of weeks or a month leading up to the draft. But I would think that the Montreal Canadiens have a top 5 prospect pool in the National Hockey League. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet that if you took a poll amongst general managers of the National Hockey League, I think the Canadiens would be in the top 5. I think
what happened is, like he looked at it from the point of view of, and he said that he did it that way, that it would be the champions. So, champions have a clear first pair. Champions have a 125-point guy. So, that's why Chicago is where Chicago is. You know what I'm getting at? Yeah. Whereas I think what Montreal does, and that's why he's got him as 9, is because what Kent Hughes has done and Jeff Gordon is volume. Like, the Habs are throwing volume at this, like,
big time,
more than all of the others. There's no team in
but Brian, isn't volume
better?
Because volume, if it gets hurt, you still have a lot of volume left. But when you don't have volume,
volume increases your chances that players hit. Like Hudson could hit, and he's a 1-2, right? Goulet could hit even more than he is right now so far, and he's a 1-2. Reinbacher was the 5th pick overall. He could hit, right? So that's another guy that could hit. Maya could hit. He could have that big shot. He could translate into NHL success.
Yeah.
So you could have, if these guys hit, you've got like 2 pairs that will rival anyone if they hit. So you got a ton of volume there. So Beck could hit as a Bob Gainey type, so like, and Hage could hit. So, I mean, the volume that the Canadiens, but if you said, is there a Connor Bedard in there? No. And that's maybe why they're at 9, there, right? Is there a Cale Makar in there? No. But New Jersey might have that type, in Young Hughes on the blue line. So, I get that he wasn't enjoying, volume that could hit. But if these guys hit, Canadiens, like, if you looked at it like from a volume point of view, and just looked at here is like just what we're throwing at you.
Yeah,
you can put the Canadiens 1, Tony. 1.
So they might end up being these players. They might end up being half of these players. They might end up being 3/4 of these players. But when you talk about volume, there's a possibility that Demidov can become Kucherov or Kaprizov, and there's a chance that Slavkovsky can become Rantanen. And Suzuki's already, like, even if he doesn't get better, he's already fantastic. And there's a chance that Cole Caulfield can become a 40-plus goal scorer in the National Hockey League. And there's a chance that Jacob Fowler can become a top 10 goalie in hockey. And there's a chance that Lane Hudson could become a poor man's Quinn Hughes. And we haven't even talked about Reinbacher. We haven't talked about Mayu. We haven't talked about Beck. We haven't talked about some of the other guys. Canadiens going to be good. They're going to be good for a long time. I think Gordon and Hughes are assembling something really special here.
And let me mention too that, like, when you're talking about potential, you're also talking about what's also already been achieved. And for some reason, like, nobody talks about this at all. Everybody kind of looks at Suzuki and Caulfield as like a lower level of prospect that, has matured. And Slavkovsky doesn't really get enough respect either. But there were 5 lines, maybe 6, that achieved 100 goals last year. And in the second half of the season, the Canadiens had one of them at 53. the second half of the season, that line at 53 goals.
Wow.
That puts him in the top 6 in the NHL, Tony.
Wow.
Right? So, like, where's the respect for that? Especially when if Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slavkovsky had to always face the other team's best defenseman because the team had no one else. Shut down that one line, you've won the game. So here's our best players all the time. And still they got 53 goals in the second half of the season. Where's the respect for that?
So, Brian, let's bring up where the Montreal Canadiens are in Corey Pronman's prospect pool. Corey Pronman from The Athletic. Let's bring it up. One more time, and this time I have to ask the question, Brian. Number 9, Is this a joke? Is this a joke? Prospect pool in the National Hockey League, the Montreal Canadiens, Corey Pronman's list of The Athletic. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, but 9. Is this a joke?
Wow. Well done. He found the dogs.
Wow. He found the dogs. He found the dogs. He found the dogs.
He found the knife.
Home. We're going to Boston. Bring the dogs. Good old days. But yes, many more ahead. Brian, thanks so much for doing this. So I think the consensus is Corey does very good work. We believe he overrated some teams. We believe the logic was a little bit off on some of them. Fit in a more fair world, the Canadiens would be in the top 5.
Definitely. For me, yeah, definitely. And if you want to just talk about volume and give a little bit of respect to Kirby Dach for being the 3rd choice overall and what the line did last year with 53 goals in the second half, I don't have any problem putting him in at 1.
He's Brian Wilde from Global TV Montreal, and you can catch his articles, Call of the Wild, throughout the entire hockey season after a Montreal Canadiens hockey game. Thanks so much, Brian. We'll talk to you soon, my man.
Cheers.
And by the way, he did this on short notice. What a guy. Special thanks to Energy Transportation Group, to Bittt, to Tibi, and to Playground. Special thanks to all of you for watching. And once again, if you can, check out our Apple reviews. Leave us a 5-star. It's our way of feeling the love. If you like the podcast tonight, comment sick, share it with your friends. For Sammy and Yellow at Master Control, it's a Sick Podcast. I'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. I'm Marinaro, and me, I'm no joke.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.